Many Magic the Gathering players ask the question, is it worth it to buy a Spider-Man Commander deck? Well, you can't, because they didn't make any for this set, or the next set for some reason. That's right, Spider-Man is here! And he forgot to bring precons with him. Oops! Personally, and this is just me talking from the heart here, I would have loved it if these Spider-Man cards had just been standalone commander decks like they did with Warhammer, and not have them be a standard legal set that may or may not have delayed Lorwyn until next year. But what do I know? Well, I do know that there are 5 cards in the main set that I swear would have been awesome choices to headline their respective commander precons. So to heck with it, let's build our own Spider-Man precons. These 5 cards in particular are not only some of the most iconic characters in Spider-Man, but these designs, just the card designs, are practically begging to have 99 card singleton decks built around them. Each of these 5 cards is a 3-color flip legend. Peter Parker, Miles Morales, Norman Osborn, Eddie Brock, and Gwen Stacy, also known as Amazing Spider-Man, Ultimate Spider-Man, Green Goblin, Venom, and Ghost Spider. This cycle of legends are each monocolor on the front side and can be either transformed into or simply cast directly as their 3-color superpowered alter egos on the back side. And while all 5 are prime candidates for commander decks with powerful, coherent, and exciting game plans, none of them have precons. Because again, there are no Spider-Man commander decks. Until now, that is, because as the iconic, soon-to-be Magic the Gathering character Thanos once said, "I'll do it myself, Spider-Man." Presented here, he's in the Spider-Man set. Thanos is I don't know. Presented here, I don't know. Don't leave me a comment, I don't care. Presented here are 3 of the 5 lost Spider-Man precons. I've tried to stick to roughly the same budget that Universes Beyond Commander precons generally have in value when they are released, which is about $150 to maybe $200, not counting the commanders. All 3 deck lists are uploaded to Archidekt and linked in this video's description, but what about the other 2? Well, I figured I'd just pay all of you to make them for me. Introducing the first ever Tolarian Community College Build Your Own Precon giveaway, where you get to build your own missing lost precon deck on Archidekt, and if we pick your deck list, we will send you as reward a sealed collector booster box of Spider-Man, which are currently going for how much? Oh my goodness, are you kidding me? We're picking 2 winners because that's all we can afford to give away. Just if you win, you can sell it and keep the cash. I don't care. What I do care about is seeing a cool lost precon that you designed for any of the legendary cards in this set except the 3 that we have featured in this video. You don't have to limit yourself to the other flip cards like Miles Morales or Eddie Brock, but feel free to use one of those if you like. You can use any legendary from the Spider-Man set. We want to see you build your own precon around it. No spending limit, no bracket limit, just show us your idea of a cool precon, whatever that means to you. All you have to do to enter is create an Archidekt account and build your deck list there, and while logged in, you can submit your deck lists to the competition right through their website. On September 19th, we're going to choose not 1, but 2 winning deck lists to get a collector booster box of Spider-Man. Archidekt is the best website on the internet for keeping up to date with your Magic the Gathering collection, from your own cards and decks to those of your entire play group. It's an intuitive and powerful deck building platform, perfect for keeping your own deck lists or checking out others. You can see every deck list from every episode of Shuffle Up and Play there, as well as every build your own precon we've ever done. What's more, Archidekt's advanced analytics help you decide what cards you keep in your lists, which to cut, and which you're still just testing out. And it makes it easy to compare 2 different deck lists. You can even play test your deck lists on Archidekt so you can essentially try before you buy. It's an amazing tool and the perfect place for you to enter our Build Your Own Precon giveaway. So if you're ready to show us what kind of deck you'd design as your own lost precon for Spider-Man, just go to archidekt.com/Tolarian to create your Archidekt account today and enter the giveaway, and maybe you'll walk away with a collector booster box of Spider-Man. And now, what precons did we build as the lost precons of Spider-Man? Well, let's begin with great power. The first precon we have built is Great Power, a Bant deck headlined by none other than Peter Parker and his alter ego, the Spider-Man. Amazing! Peter Parker himself is just a 0/1 for 1 generic and a white mana. When he enters, create a 2/1 green spider creature token with reach. The flip side of Peter can be accessed either by spending 1 generic and 1 of each Bant mana to transform him, or by paying that same mana cost up front to cast the backside without first casting Peter Parker. Pretty cool that you could actually bring him into play as Spider-Man without needing to first cast Peter Parker and then flip him. But either route you go, you'll find yourself with the amazing Spider-Man, a 4/4 spider human hero with vigilance and reach. With the amazing Spider-Man out, each legendary spell you cast that's 1 or more colors has web slinging for green, white, and a blue. This is a deck that aims to use the amazing Spider-Man's web-slinging ability to drop massive legends into play well ahead of schedule. In order to accomplish this game plan, you're going to need a couple of things. You're going to need cheap creatures that you don't mind bouncing to your web-slinging costs. You're going to need big stuff that you're excited to cast for just 3 mana. And finally, and most importantly, you're going to need reliable ways to tap your smaller creatures down, ideally without needing to risk them in combat. Let's start with those tap outlets, as, in my opinion, that's one of the more interesting aspects of this deck. Of course, mana dorks like Llanowar Elves and Sylvan Caryatid make for great bounce fodder for your web slinging, since they both help to pay the web slinging cost and tap themselves down in the process. You can also turn creatures that don't naturally tap for mana into mana dorks with cards like Cryptolith Rite, Inga and Esika, and Rishkar, Pima Renegade. Another nice card for this purpose is Supportive Parents, which can tap 2 creatures to produce a mana of any color as often as you like, even creatures with Summoning Sickness. Perhaps it is unkind for me to have included a card called Supportive Parents in the Peter Parker precon, but in my defense the card is perfect for the deck. Besides, Peter's a magnanimous guy, right? He probably would love to hang out with Miles Morales' parents. Anyway, there are a lot of other methods for turning your creatures sideways. Convoke, for instance, is a fantastic ability for manually tapping down creatures outside of combat. And Opposition can clear blockers out of the way while tapping down any creature you'd like at will. You can also tap your creatures to vehicles and mounts, again, even if those creatures are summoning sick. As for the creatures you bounce, well, the best creatures to bounce besides mana dorks are those with great enter the battlefield effects. Cheap creatures that draw cards, search up lands, or otherwise generate some value when they hit play. The other best kind of web slinging fodder are creatures that start out tapped when they enter, like Sleep-Cursed Fairy and Watcher for Tomorrow. Let's move way up the curve and talk about payoffs. There are a ton of awesome massive creatures to cast for just a green, white, and blue mana. My personal favorites are the Myojin from Kamigawa, 9 and 10 mana spirits capable of ridiculous things if you can cast them from your hand. Remember, web slinging is an alternate casting cost, so even though you're only paying 3 mana to cast these Myojin, they still enter play with their divinity counters. There are other creatures that benefit from this same technicality too. The Tarask, for instance, is perfectly happy with the 6 mana discount that web slinging grants it. He still has haste and ward 10. Similarly, Slyn Voda, the Rising Deep, can be web slung for 3 mana and then kicked for an additional 2 to bounce all non-sea creatures back to their owner's hands. Spider-Man gives web slinging to all colored legendary spells, by the way, not just creatures. Legendary planeswalkers like Nissa, Ascended Animist, artifacts like Avacyn's Memorial, enchantments like In Bolas's Clutches, and even sorceries like Karn's Temporal Sundering all get the mana discount provided by Spider-Man. To close things out, I've included some other cards that aren't directly contributing to the game plan, but that slot in nicely alongside what we're already doing. Up the Beanstalk, Helga Skittish Seer, and Emoti, Celebrant of Bounty, provide even more extra rewards for casting these big spells, as if 3 mana Myojin weren't reward enough. Kona, our rescue beastie, is another card that loves getting tapped down alongside the web-slinging fodder. But rather than getting bounced back to hand for 3 mana, it just wants to make it to your second main phase, where it'll put a big permanent into play without needing to be bounced itself. And finally, if you want to do all your web-slinging nonsense at instant speed, Raph Capuchin, Ship's Mage, will be happy to provide flash to all the legendary spells that you wish to web sling. Great power is an absolutely thrilling deck to pilot. I can only imagine that slinging these huge splashy payoff cards into play on the cheap is the Commander equivalent of swinging through the New York City skyline. It's wild to me they did not build a precon around this commander, because I know your opponents are going to be craning their necks to look up at your towering mana curve and wonder, how is it even possible they got this far ahead? Who is our next commander that we built a precon around? Well, Mayhem Madness is headlined by Norman Osborn, a 1/1 human scientist villain for 1 generic and a blue mana. Norman Osborn can't be blocked, and when he deals combat damage to a player, he connives. To make him flip to a villainous side, it's the same deal with Peter Parker. You can spend 1 generic and 1 of each of Grixis mana to transform Norman, or just skip straight to casting him to the flip side for that same mana cost. Norman's evil alter ego is Green Goblin, a 3/3 goblin human villain with flying and menace who reduces the cost of spells you cast from the graveyard and, crucially, gives each non-land card in your graveyard mayhem. The first step of Mayhem Madness's game plan is simple. Discard your cards for profit that you then get to cast for their reduced mayhem cost. From there, you just play a game of Commander using the cards you discard like they're in your hand. The trick to piloting this deck is thinking carefully through which cards you want to discard to your various outlets and when you want to discard them based on what spells you would like to cast in a given turn. Ideally, once the deck gets going, most of the spells you cast will be from your graveyard. To pull this off, you'll need a few things. First of all, you want discard outlets. The simplest of these are spells that loot or rummage away cards, such as Faithless Looting, Frantic Search, and Highway Robbery. But even better are those permanents that allow you to loot every turn without spending any other resources, such as Dak Faden, Key to the City, and Ledger Shredder. In addition to these cards, we're also going to want to run Underworld Cookbook alongside its author, Esmeralda Discard Attack Electric card. Nailed it in one, don't at me. Some discard outlets are more drastic than others, such as Angie's Ravager and Forgotten Creation, which makes you discard your entire hand turn after turn. Of course, that's not much of a cost when all the cards you discard will have mayhem. The absolute best discard outlets at your disposal, though, are the free and repeatable discard outlets. I'm talking of cards like Scourge Familiar, Ghostly Pilferer, and Putrid Imp. Scourge Familiar is awesome because the mana you get from its ability can then be used to pay the mayhem cost for those discarded cards. Cards that require you to discard to pay an additional cost are great in this deck too, such as Bone Shards and Bitter Triumph. In addition to discard outlets, you're going to want to include some discard payoffs. Cards like Monument to Endurance, Bone Miser, and Surly Badgersaur are all cards that will accumulate value for you when you go about your game plan. Alongside these cards are cards such as Burning Vengeance, Secrets of the Dead, and River Kelpie, which are all additional payoffs for casting spells from your yard. As too is Shadow of the Goblin, of course, which is both a discard outlet and a mayhem payoff. I've also included some cards that love either going to the graveyard themselves or love to see other cards hit the bin. Anger and Wonder, for instance, will give everything you control haste or flying, respectively, and of course this deck is running the amazing and powerful Sir Conrad the Grim. See the Truth is an incredible card to grant a cost-reduced mayhem, as for just 1 blue mana, you'll put the top 3 cards of your library into your hand. What card does that remind you of? I can't recall. A few cards in the deck list don't need to be mayhemmed onto the stack the turn they're discarded, because they have the ability to be cast from the yard some other way. Run for Your Life, for instance, isn't just something the Green Goblin might shout at his terrified victims. It's also a card you can cast over and over and over again from your yard using Escape. Remember, Green Goblin reduces the cost of any card you cast from your yard, not just cards you cast with Mayhem. Escape, Flashback, Jumpstart, all these abilities also have their mana costs reduced. Of course, we're not going to leave Green Goblin without his Glider or his Pumpkin Bombs, as these 2 iconic implements of chaos and destruction both fit perfectly within the rest of the game plan. Pumpkin Bombs provides a discard outlet, though you might have a hard time getting the bombs passed back to you once you throw them at someone. The rocket-powered Goblin glider, on the other hand, has no drawbacks. And with the green Goblin in play, you can cast it for its natural mayhem cost for free, and have it equip itself to your commander the moment it hits the field. One last thing about this deck list. I couldn't resist including one with nothing, which might have found a home for the first time in its 20-year lifespan. Seriously, it's not just playable, it's actively great to be able to discard your entire hand for 1 mana in this deck. This card essentially reads, pay 1 mana to reduce the cost of all the cards in your hand by 2 this turn. Sure, you have to be sure to cast those spells on the same turn you cast one with nothing, but still, one with nothing is finally good. Can you believe it? Remember, I want to see you enter our giveaway by designing your own Lost Precon for Spider-Man, but I've got one more that we did ourselves that I want to show you. Coming up next, it's Traverse the Multiverse. I've possibly saved the best deck for last, as it's time to explore the Spider-Verse with Traverse the Multiverse, the Jeskai Ghost Spider precon headlined by Gwen Stacy. Gwen Stacy is a 2/1 human performer hero for 1 and a red. When she enters, exile the top card of your library, which you can then play for as long as you control Gwen. Her flip side, which you can transform her into, or just cast, costs 2 generic and 1 of each of Jeskai mana. Spider-Gwen's card name is Ghost Spider, a 4/4 spider human hero with flying, vigilance, and haste. Whenever you play any card from exile, put a +1/+1 counter on Ghost Spider. You may also remove 2 counters from Ghost Spider to exile the top card of your library and play it this turn. Traverse the Multiverse is a deck chock full of card advantage that aims to cast spells from exile any way it can. These spells translate into power and toughness buffs for your flying, vigilant, and hasty commander, allowing you to threaten to attack for massive amounts of commander damage, all while remaining protected with a big blocker on defense. And of course, you can always take away Ghost Spider's power if you're running low on cards and need to dig for action using that second ability. Impulse effects are the easiest way to do this, and there are a ton of great ones in Magic. Showdown of the Skalds, Ignite the Future, and Commune with Lava provide you with a big burst of such cards. In smaller but repeated doses, you've got cards like Valakut, Exploration, Lilia, the Blade Reforged, and Urabrask, Heretic Praetor, that give you impulsed cards to cast 1 at a time. And this deck loves casting cards from exile so much that it would rather do that than cast cards from hand. I've therefore included a few cards that do exactly that. Wild Wasteland, which turns your draw step into a 2-card impulse, and Iruth, Tormented Prophet, who does the same thing but for any card you draw rather than just your draw step. I really like Kami of Celebration, which doesn't just give you an impulsed card on attack, but also doubles up on Ghost Spider's own +1/+1 counter ability, making it even easier to have plenty of counter removal fodder for Ghost Spider's second ability. You can also cast spells from exile that your opponents own with cards like Plarg and Nasari, Mind's Dilation, and of course everyone's favorite Atali, Primal Storm. We did it, fam! We found a home for Atali in Commander. There are other ways to cast spells from exile too. Foretell, for instance, is a great mechanic in this deck, as is Plot and Suspend. Cascade and Discover are the best of the bunch with cards like Wild Magic Sorcerer, Quintorius Canned, and Throes of Chaos, providing repeatable ways of either cascading or discovering. While you're doing all of this casting from exile, you might as well be accumulating additional bonuses, don't you think? That's why it's great that Keeper of Secrets, The Lost and the Damned, and Vega the Watcher each provide some extra value when you cast spells from exile. Meanwhile, Sage of the Beyond, Commander Liera Porter, and the Warped Space Room make casting those spells from exile even easier. Gwen Stacy's own Interdimensional Web Watch provides you with a mana boost for casting more spells from exile, and even provides you with a couple cards to play from exile itself. Surge of Brilliance is a card that can put itself into exile with Foretell, and then draw you a ton of cards once you cast it. While Spider-Man 2099's cast timing restriction probably won't come up in a game of 100 cards singleton, which means he's just a 2-mana 2/3 that will trigger his end of turn ability on every single turn you play with this deck. And of course, how is Ghost Spider going to explore the multiverse without the card Spider-Verse itself, doubling up on one spell you cast per turn? Now, Feshni does a similar thing for 1 more mana, though it's not gated by any once per turn clause. Delayed Blast Fireball is absurd in this deck. If you cast it from exile using any of the various methods this deck has for casting cards from exile, you get the 5 damage mode even if you didn't spend 6 mana on its Foretell cost. Speaking of Foretell cards that fit well in this deck, Behold the Multiverse is a card that would certainly have made its way into a WotC-designed precon for the flavor reasons alone. But just imagine the reskin of this card featuring Gwen Stacy staring out at the Great Web. Oh, what a missed opportunity for precons for Spider-Man, instead of just the standard set we got. Traverse the Multiverse is a wild deck to pilot. It's perfect for players who love doing things their own way and accumulating massive amounts of card advantage in the process. If you're someone with an adventurous spirit, you will love Ghost Spider's Traverse the Multiverse precon. Or you would, if it existed. But we built it ourselves. But that's of course just 3 precons, and now I want to see what you would build, and if I love your design, I'm going to give you a collector booster box of Spider-Man, courtesy of Archidekt. Just build your own Lost Commander precon and submit that deck list via Archidekt, and you might walk away with a collector booster box because we're picking not 1, but 2 winning deck lists, sending their creators this awesome prize, which, you could sell for cash and pocket it if you want. And it's going for how much again? Oh my God! Just go to archidekt.com/Tolarian to create your Archidekt account and then build your own deck list for any of the remaining legendary creatures from Spider-Man. You can select to enter the deck list in our contest right there on Archidekt, and then we will pick not 1 but 2 winners on September 19th. You'll be notified via Archidekt, and each winner gets a collector booster box of Spider-Man. So build your own Lost Precon for the set that should have been just Commander Precons to begin with. Thank you, Archidekt, for letting me give away not 1, but 2 collector booster boxes, and, also for sponsoring this video.
Next time on Shuffle Up and Play.
What's up? It's Shuffle Up and Play, and today we have balanced our decks against a medium deck.
Mid? Do they call it? I think the kids call it mid.
But, okay, f off.
Your deck was bonkers, crazy, powerful.
They replaced a couple cards.
And how many was that?
20? I have a really easy turn 1, a Gloomlake Verge land.
Draw for turn.
And then I'm going to draw for turn.
This is what I assume your lives are usually like. As influencers.
You're an influencer.
You're an influencer.
I want to tell you this. That's what you do.
Death Cap Glade.
Is that a no cap? It's cap? Yeah, cap. Cap.
I want to attack, but I don't think anybody's naked. You got a 4/4 froggy.
Can't be naked.
What? Is this a common vibe?
Sometimes I say things and I don't know why.